Hello, lovely! In this video, we're gonna give you model answers and vocabulary about the palaces of knowledge. Libraries. I'm not gonna say I'm Maria.
You're Maria, and I'm Rory, and we're here to help prepare you for IELTS speaking and have a little bit of fun along the way.
Are we excited to talk about libraries?
I am. I live near a library, and I like to read. Therefore, we should be okay for this one.
Yes, dear listener, please watch and listen till the very end, and please comment while you're listening, so just write away your ideas about libraries. Is it a library? A library? What's a library? I've never been to a library. Come on, everything is on the internet. But libraries are still with us.
With good cause. They're not just for books. They're for things like social events and clubs. So you should go to your library. Go to your local library after you finish listening to our episode about libraries and how amazing they are.
Let's talk about libraries. Do you often go to the library?
Much more than I used to, actually. In my hometown, the local library is quite far off, but up my neck of the woods now, it's just over the road. So I'll go there maybe once or twice a month. I think that's quite often.
First of all, what do we say? Go to a library, go to the library, go to library. Article, no article.
Well, go to the library or go to a library, not go to library. You need an article. But go to a library for like one of many, and go to the library for a specific one of many. That's usually your local library is the library.
Yeah, and you've mentioned this local library. I usually go to my local library, so local in your neighborhood, right? Like your local school, your local shop, your local library. Or I've never been to a library, yeah? Or I don't like libraries.
Do you like libraries?
You know, I do. Especially I enjoy this, high-tech libraries, modern libraries with like nice design and computers and delicious coffee and food and nice lights, But also I love old libraries. For example, in Moscow we have the State Lenin Library, and it has this nice touch, this, old green lamps. And you kind of, if you're there, you feel that smart people, like wise people, the movers and shakers of this world used to sit by these tables, used to walk around.
This is a huge contrast to my local library, which has like only a few shelves, and it's like covers about maybe 50 square meters.
Yeah, but that's the State Library. That's one of the biggest libraries in the world, I think, this Lenin's library. And by the way, every author, for example, I publish a book, okay, on, my life, how to be beautiful. So when I publish this book, I have to give one copy to this library, and this is how they keep all the books like up to date. So they have this massive collections of books. It's interesting. Oh yes, and our Rory is an author, so you can buy his books, his novels, like 4, 5, I forgot, Rory, 3, 10, 4.
5, 4,
5.
4, 4. You can see them behind me. And as a little Easter egg, no one's noticed yet, or if they have, they haven't commented on it yet, but in every episode, the books change.
Yeah, so the link is in the description, so go and get Rory's books. Right, so we went on a huge tangent back to libraries. So you said that's up my neck of the woods.
Yes,
neck?
It's an idiom. And a spoiler alert, we are working on an idioms course right now. More information on that further on down the line, which is also an idiom. However, up my neck of the woods means we're in the area where I live. Not that you live in a forest, it just means where you live.
Okay, could you give us an example?
Oh, well, yeah, sure. There aren't many people up my neck of the woods because it's a village.
Did you go to a library when you were a child?
I vividly remember we would go there with our childminder. I used to pick up a load of books on complex topics just because I like the pictures. It must be where I get the vocabulary from.
As a child, Rory went to the library, and he said that we would go there. So I would go there. Why would? Because it was a regular action in the past, okay? So Rory is talking about the past when he was a child. I would go to a library. Yeah, so kind of it was a regular action every week. And you can say I went there or I would go there.
I went there, I would go there, I used to go there.
Who is a childminder?
A childminder is just someone who looks after you when your parents are unavailable to do that. So, and it's their job to do that. So a nanny is another word. We just called it a childminder. Like, mind means obviously your head and what's going on in there. But a mind can also mean to look after, and a minder is someone who looks after something. So a childminder is someone who looks after children. Like mind the gap. Like keep the gap in mind. Yes, it's all connected.
Mind the gap and mind the gap between the train and the platform. Mind the gap. So when you're in London, they brainwash you. Mind the gap. Mind the gap. You go to your hometown and they go, mind the gap. Mind the gap. Pick up a load of books. When you take books from a library, you pick up books, a load of books, lots of books. So as a child, Rory used to pick up a load of books on complex subjects.
And it's when we talk about what a book is about, it's a book on something. Like I'm reading a book on being creative in schools.
Science fiction.
No, I'm not reading any science fiction books right now. I have ordered a ton of them, but I cannot wait to go home and pick them up.
What do you usually do in the library?
I like to poke around the lifestyle and science fiction sections in the hopes of finding something interesting. And I've looked up information on local authors for various projects. The librarians there are actually quite helpful if we talk about my library where I live now.
An interesting question. What do you usually do in a library? Huh? Well, but actually it's a good question.
What do most people do in libraries?
No, because these days libraries, they've adapted to this modern life, and they have computers, they have technology, they have cafes. You can also call a library a hub. A hub.
A hub of knowledge, a community hub.
Yeah, it's all about these communities and helping each other. Maybe there are some master classes, some classes, seminars, lectures. There's a lot going on in different libraries these days. Rory pokes around in the science fiction session. So pokes around.
Yes, it's just like looking for things. Okay.
I enjoy poking around the magazines section. So just like looking around, checking out different magazines. You can also use another phrasal verb, look up. So I've also looked up information on something. Or I usually poke around in section and I look up information on certain subjects. And you remember this Harry Potter, the restricted section.
Is there a restricted section?
Yeah, I don't know. Are there any restricted sections in our libraries these days?
Hold on a minute. I don't think any books are banned now, but like...
We're recording this episode about libraries and he just goes and checks the freaking banned books.
I got inspired to read about banned books now, so I'm just going on a magical adventure into the internet.
What do we call people who work in a library? The people who match you with the book you want.
We call them lucky because they don't have to deal with people during the day.
Librarians. Yeah, so a librarian, like a librarian, yeah? A person who, I like this expression, like a librarian is somebody who matches you with the book you want. Nice. Dear listener, also you can say that I prefer borrowing like books, periodicals, newspapers, films, maps. In libraries we have DVDs, ebooks, audiobooks, databases. I'm reading from the script. And yeah, and there are collections of, rare books, right? Even if you if you never go to a library, you can say this just to show off your vocabulary.
Oh yes, what do I usually do? Like if it's a rare collection, I doubt that you're doing it very often, right? Is there?
Yeah, but you can say like, oh, I usually borrow this and that. I poke around this and that section. Sometimes I also check out the collections of rare books and DVDs. DVDs. What kind of people go to libraries to work or study?
Based on a limited number of visits I've made recently, it's hard to pin down exactly who goes there. I suppose my best guess would be that there are people who are interested in finding out about different subjects connected to what they work with or what they study.
I've made some visits to a library. So you make visits to a library. You visit a library, or you can say that based on the limited number of visits I've recently made. So to make a visit to a library. A nice phrasal verb, Rory, you've used this pin down. It's hard to pin down exactly who goes to libraries.
Well, it is, because everybody goes to the local library where I live. At least that seems to be the case.
Yeah, but that's in Scotland. What about some other countries?
I don't know about other countries.
Could you please write down in the comments, like, do you go to your local library, or maybe your friends go?
Could you please stalk the people in your local library and let us know which ones go there?
Yeah, so kind of, it's difficult for me to say what kind of people go to libraries, so it's hard to pin down who exactly goes to a local library. And when you use a phrasal verb, make sure that you stress. Which word you stress, Rory, the verb or the preposition?
Is it the verb?
No, it's the preposition that you stress. Typical native speaker.
I'm tired.
Oh,
You're rude.
I am rude. Yeah, we usually say pin down, not like pin down, but pin down. So the stress is usually on the preposition. That's why poke around. Well,
It's
we
also
just
stress.
poke around,
Poke around.
like around. Yeah, we're exaggerating, yeah, but no, poke around the science fiction section. So around is more stressed than poke. Okay, and then the strategy is to say my best guess would be people interested in novels. So my best guess would be people who are writing a course paper or who are writing a thesis dissertation. So my best guess would be la 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 la. Are libraries popular in your country?
Well, I'm hardly an expert, but if I were to guess, I'd say they're probably relatively more popular now than they used to be in the recent past, because people are trying to save money by taking books out on loan rather than by buying them. Just because we have this cost of living crisis. However, I don't think that they're as popular as they were back in the day. Like, we're talking like in the 1950s and 60s, just because people still have more money than they did back then. But still, they're using various cost-cutting measures, and so libraries will play a part in that.
I'm hardly an expert, but if I were to guess, I'd say that. And you know, Rory, so our listener might think that, no, come on, whoever says this, I'm hardly an expert, this is not natural. But you know what? I went to Thailand and there was a guide. He was talking about these mountains and lakes, and then he goes, and then he talked about fish, and he goes like, if I were an expert, I'd say that. And I go like, that's our strategy.
He's obviously one of our listeners. Thank you, Thai guide, for listening.
Yes, and the guide was from Britain.
Oh, really?
As far as British person.
Nice.
And he used this strategy. So you see, dear listener, this is real life. If one person used it, it's like natural.
Yeah. One native speaker used it, and therefore, that is of course not how language works, but there you go.
Then we say that people can save money and borrow books from their local library. So we borrow books, we take books, and then we give them back, right? What if I don't give a book back?
Then you are killed because you're stealing. No, if you don't give a book back, then you might have to pay a fine, or you'd get a written warning from your library. Or if you're a teacher in the United Kingdom, then you can take out a special teacher's account and you have an unlimited loan time because they know that teachers are busy and they'll get them back to you when they can.
So we borrow books from libraries, but if I just go to a library and I take a book and I just leaf through it, I read it there. So what do you call this? Like, I use books for reference.
If you're just reading through a book in the library, I guess you're just leafing through it. It depends on what you're using it for.
And you mentioned these cost-cutting measures. What did you mean by cost-cutting?
A cost-cutting measure is just something that helps you save money. So borrowing books instead of buying them is a cost-cutting measure because you don't pay for them. Not paying your taxes is a cost-cutting measure.
Yeah, dear listeners, so you can talk about libraries as community centers, right? So where people go to have different classes, I don't know, to meet other people, to just hang around with your friends. And also I think some people use libraries when their internet at home is down, Wi-Fi doesn't work, so they just pop in their local library to use like free Wi-Fi, because it's like free, right? Supposed to be. Is it for free?
I don't know. I don't think we have Wi-Fi in our local library.
No? Oh,
No.
Scotland these days. No
But we're
Wi-Fi.
in the middle of nowhere.
I like the way you say it now. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Excellent. So Rory has officially accepted that he is just in the middle of nowhere in a small village, just out there somewhere in Scotland. We don't even know where he is.
That doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means it's quiet.
Quiet, yes. Do you think that libraries are in real danger of closing down?
Not the really big state-owned ones. So the one that you were describing in Moscow, for example, or I'm trying to think of a big library in London. I don't know any famous libraries in London. But there will be ones that are owned by the government. They probably won't close. But local community libraries, as they're used less and less often, will probably close down.
Oh, and do you know that in some libraries you can use your voice to search for library materials? So you can just go there.
That will not be in my local library, I assure you.
Yeah, but maybe in some, in libraries in London or in other capitals, you can just use your voice and please find me a book by Rory Fergus Duncan Goodwillie. And the system goes like, a book by who?
If you hooked up an AI to a search database, then
yeah.
probably you could say you'd find a book that's about X, Y, and Z, and they would find it. Be great.
Thank you very much for listening. So please make sure that you let us know, do you know any people who go to libraries these days? Do you go to a library? Or maybe when you were at school or at university, did you used to go to a library, and what you did there? Okay. Hugs, Korean hearts, kisses, lots of energy, and we'll see you
next
in our
time.
next show. Bye.
Bye.